Ever since early November, I keep looping back to Boxman's spiel at the end of Dark Plaza. Heroes versus villains can be portrayed as a very black and white concept. It's the good guys versus the bad guys. Thankfully, most stories playing with this concept introduce some shades of gray or nuance at some point. This is a tangent, but Villainous has shown a lot of potential for dabbling in this, between the sympathetic Penumbra in the pilot episode, and how quickly Heroes tried to cover up how manipulative and totalitarian Miss Heed was in her corner of the world. Penumbra was campaigning for more rights and a louder voice as part of a marginalized group. Miss Heed was abusing a mix of something akin to a love potion, and her social media influence to create an artificial crowd of ever-present admirers, paint a flattering and perfect image of herself as a public figure, and maintain some level of soft power and influence in a vie for Gold Heart's affections, as well as fighting her painfully low self-esteem. One is a villain. Penumbra had to seek a Faustian bargain for a civil rights issue. The other is a hero. Miss Heed is a reflection of how toxic celebrity culture is, and how much she gets away with because of the social prestige and implicit trust around heroes. Cartoon Network, greenlight more Villainous. These guys are cooking and it's fucking brilliant. In regards to OKKO, the scale and different levels of evil between Boxman and Venomous is an entry point for shades of gray. Boxman is primarily a one-track minded Saturday morning cartoon villain. He's focused on destroying the plaza, and he'll demoralize or torment his victims, but he has hard limits, like he's not going to kill. Venomous is disturbingly nonchalant about tampering with local water supplies, and creating sapient goo clones that can and will get killed for the express purpose of traumatizing a victim. Arguably, Boxman ups his threat level after he starts getting closer with Venomous. Trying to destroy the plaza is amateur hour. When Boxmore sends Ernesto to infiltrate the local school and deliberately water down what kind of education and feedback the kids are getting, that's a long-term plan to neuter how much of a threat the next generation of heroes could be. This syncs up with Boxman's bigger ambitions of destroying Point outright, but it doesn't match his track record of petty, small peanuts targets. Venomous is the big picture guy. He definitely influenced some of Boxman's worst, higher threat schemes. In a nutshell, Boxmore's villains are a small-scale look of what kinds of villains there are in Lakewood. Presumably, most of them are somewhere between Boxman and Venomous. There isn't enough on-screen evidence to make a definite call, but at the very least, the other villains have a wide enough variety of interests and projects that Boxman is a scoffed-at anomaly. They probably have one or two active hero rivals, black market wares, and their specific brand of evil calling card like Boxman's robots or Venomous's menagerie of biological horrors. That said, the villains are manageable as long as the heroes are a strong, collaborative front. Even with Point as a strained and pulled taut institution, heroes toe the line. They either uphold the status quo or keep quiet in service of the all-encompassing end goal: stop the villains. Foxtail and the over-reliance on chip damage run a wrecking ball through whatever illusion of solidarity the heroes had. Foxtail has no qualms about sending Carolyn as a secret agent to spy on the plaza, rather than lay out her concerns to Mr. Gar. She doesn't trust Mr. Gar. She dismisses him and the plaza at large as lesser heroes because they're self-trained, entry-level, or have no training whatsoever. She wants soldiers, not hobbyists, civilians, and part-timers. There's more emphasis on installing bootstrap mentality and strengthening highly individualistic responses to threats and Point students, versus teaching them how to collaborate with or complement each other's strengths. Nobody talks to each other. Everyone has different opinions on how to address and stop villains. There's no room for compromise. Foxtail embodies a forceful my way or the highway approach that ultimately splinters the hero side. She quashes her teammates with the same force and power she'd otherwise direct at a villain. Instead of heroes fighting villains, it's heroes fighting heroes based on differences in personal philosophy, morals, and approach. And as absurd as this comparison might be, I've been thinking about this allegory in relation to how much more polarized politics have become in the US. This allegory is applicable to a wide variety of opposing factions and circumstances. This is more my interpretation and interaction with the story versus anything else. On the surface, American politics is majority Republicans versus Democrats. It's ridiculous that the system works like this, and the public is so locked into the idea that it's almost inconceivable to dismantle it. But that's a different discussion for someone way more knowledgeable than me. There's been more stereotyping and creating straw men. All quote-unquote conservatives are pearl-clutching, highly religious, puritanical bigots that wear MAGA hats and sing Trump's praises. All quote-unquote leftists are atheistic, highly sensitive, everything goes, multicolored hair, gender blurring, and ambiguous freaks. I lean very far left. My dad isn't quite a MAGA conservative, but he's painted me as a boogeyman. A quote-unquote confused woman, for the record, I'm a trans-mass person, that prioritizes feelings and propaganda over biology. To be fair, I've painted him in a similar light. He's a tone-deaf bigot that relies on Fox News for a steady diet of Ben Shapiro bullshit, and thinks he's read up on biology just because he got a master's degree 20 years ago. Time is frozen for him. When I'm in the heat of the moment, it's exceedingly easy to turn arguing with dad into a boomer versus millennial spat, or a milquetoast conservative versus a radical leftist. In the moment, he's a target. He's the enemy that needs to be addressed, rebutted, and taken down. Ideological differences do break down even further than supposedly clear-cut red versus blue. In a room of Democrats, or anyone left-leaning, certain issues can and do turn the meeting into further splintering and cannibalizing each other. Voters who refused to support Kamala for whatever reason were lumped together with voters that chose third-party candidates or didn't vote whatsoever and blamed for the low voter turnout. In stark contrast, the Trump voters were able to pull together long enough to get voters to the polls. Trump voters are still a united front. Yes, I'm going there. Instead of digging into people that didn't vote, it's worth investigating what changes they want to see and what support they need. There's so much discussion about building community and becoming a stronger, more unified front. That means everyone even slightly left-leaning can and should learn how to listen more, how to talk to and collaborate with everyone that's anywhere close to our mutual goal of stop, challenge, and push back against Trump and his regime's bullshit. We don't have to like each other or unanimously agree on everything, but it's a start if the focus can stay long enough on compromise to reach X goal. Especially in smaller local communities. There's more immediate benefit in getting to know our neighbors and working with them to build a robust community that can better withstand whatever's rolling down the pipeline next. Whether it's moral support, helping with chores, exchanging services or resources, whatever. Learning how to collaborate with and lean on other people is more important right now than ever. It's possible to start this ripple effect on a small scale. I'm putting this out there in hopes of raising my own morale and hope, as much as anyone else's. This goes beyond red versus blue too. It's more obvious than ever who the real threat is. Given increasing wealth disparity, how many big corporations thinly skirt trust-busting laws, open discussions about oligarchs, and even the fact Elon Musk was sitting behind Trump on Inauguration Day. The more focus is redirected to moral panic around topics like trans rights, rather than how much political power billionaires have, the easier it is to pit all of us against each other. Despite what arguments I've had with my dad, we agree that people should be fairly compensated, treated kindly in the workplace, and have full access to health insurance. There's common ground. That's what I want to actively focus on and work towards. When OKKO trotted Boxman out to announce that he benefits from heroes fighting each other, the entire point was to emphasize the importance of solidarity. The entirety of Dark Plaza and what leads up to it are an exploration on why and how solidarity can be such a difficult goal. There's so many different personalities at play. The wide variety of backgrounds, opinions, morals, goals, and what is considered a higher priority for one person versus another play a huge role in the complexities of community and society at large. While these can be difficult, it is important to try and approach others with empathy, compassion, and patience. While it's not a complex, in-depth exploration on this, There's still something really powerful in the conclusion being heroes coming together and promising to work towards mutual change. Even Boxman's comeuppance involved KO getting a boost from Foxtail. Success relies on either giving a hand up or getting a boost. If we want solidarity, we have to believe we can get there and make it a reality.